That's fine.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Before I call the meeting to order, I'll note for the record that I'll serve as acting chair. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. We're doing this from Albany. I'm here with Kevin Eunice and Kevin Hansen. And we have an exciting project. Actually, it's on our agenda, and we're going to be doing an event that connects to the semiconductor industry and our relationship with SUNY, the Research Foundation. So sorry I couldn't be with you in person, but glad to be here in Albany. And it's been a significant week for technology in the state of New York, for sure. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York State Urban Development Corporation, doing business as Empire State Development, for Thursday, November 15th, 2018. As noted on the agenda posted to the internet, we welcome public comment on the items in our agenda. As always, the directors have received the written materials in advance and are free to ask questions at any time. I'll ask the directors now if does anyone have any conflicts of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda. Okay, the first item on today's agenda is approval of the minutes of October 18th, 2018. Are there any questions or comments or additions or deletions? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
I move that we.
Second.
Thank you. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay, we'll now move to the report section, and I will start off with the President's report. So you may have heard that Amazon has selected New York City as one of two headquarter locations, which is, an amazing win for New York State and New York City. And I'm just going to spend a few minutes telling you a bit about the project. I want to say that the news got out ahead of us a bit. So for those of you who were frustrated that we weren't sharing a ton of information internally, it's because we continued to negotiate the Amazon deal right up through the week, and were not actually selected until Monday. So even though there were some leaks in the press, we were still negotiating in good faith, under an agreement that, put a high priority on our confidentiality. So I wanted to explain that because you were reading of some of it in the newspapers before we had an opportunity to actually talk about it. So we were pleased to do that press conference. It was fabulous having the governor and the mayor talking about the most significant economic development project in the history of the state of New York. And to the best of my knowledge, in history, period, this is a project that brings 25,000 jobs at least over 10 years. And according to our MOU with Amazon, they anticipate 40,000 direct jobs over 15 years. And of course, there's significant impact from indirect jobs as well. So we see direct and indirect jobs hitting as much as 107,000 over the next quarter century just associated with this project. These are not your average salaries for jobs. So what's astonishing about this project is, one, the number of jobs, and two, the compensation associated with these jobs. These jobs have an average compensation of over $150,000. Over $150,000. So if you think about Amazon having 40,000 people with a compensation over $150,000 a year, and you do the math on that, that is a $6 billion annual payroll. A $6 billion annual payroll right in New York City, just for the direct job. So there's no project that we have any reference to that has this kind of impact. You're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars of economic impact for New York City and New York State. So, there's a lot to be proud of here, and there's some things I want to say about that. ESD, your organization, not only is proud of the fact that we won and that we were selected, but we're proud of the fact of how we went about this process. This dates back to August of 2017 when Amazon first issued a request for proposals, and they were due in October, which was not a lot of time. I want to remind everybody that we had Buffalo and Rochester teamed up to submit a proposal. Syracuse and Utica and the Mohawk Valley teamed up. The Capital District and the New York City metro area, which, by the way, includes Long Island and southern Hudson Valley. So ESD played an important role right from the get-go in helping all of these regions with their proposals and with coordination. We brought to the table the resources of Newmark, who helped with site selection services. We brought to the table the resources of UB's Regional Institute, which helped with data collection. We worked collaboratively with economic development organizations. And we ultimately had 4 meaningful proposals selected to Amazon. And I think, and you should know that the state incentives applied equally to all of the cities in the state that submitted proposals. So I think, got high marks from the cities for being supportive. As the governor says, you love all your cities equally. And we didn't, so we worked with each of them because in some ways they were competing with one another until Amazon selected 20 semifinalists, which you might recall was back in January of 2018. I take some pleasure in noting that none of the articles that have been written over the last year really ever predicted that New York City would be selected. And it was always noted that there were 3 MSAs that were proximate to Washington, D.C. So I think people had drawn a conclusion from that the winner was going to be somewhere in the Washington, D.C. area. But clearly we did not make any of the pundits' list of, top 5 selections. So the fact that we won has a little certain extra gratification to it. Being a competitive person, I couldn't help but notice with some frustration that New York was never actually given the credit that it deserves. I see this as a really important validation of the accomplishments that Governor Cuomo and the state have made over the last 8 years, because you should know that Amazon looked at everything. They did an extremely detailed search, and they took into high consideration things like our record of fiscal responsibility, our state credit rating, our workforce, our initiatives around the governor's initiatives around the Excelsior Scholarship Program and the workforce pipeline, and the quality of our academic institutions and research institutions. These were all important factors. Our extraordinary investment in infrastructure and commitments to infrastructure, the most aggressive infrastructure plan in the country. These were all important considerations. Our holistic approach to the way we deal with the economy, the trajectory of New York State, it all added up, and our incentives all added up to a significant win for the state. I'll remind you that 238 cities from across North America submitted responses in October of 2017, 238. And we were one of two selected. So the ESD team did a great job. You should know that your team here at Empire State Development and working collaboratively with New York City's Economic Development Organization, EDC, the governor's office, working closely with the mayor's office. This was as seamless a hand-in-glove, collaborative city-state initiative and effort for over 15 months that you could have ever imagined. And I think that fact was not lost on Amazon. They really need to know that they have partners that they can count on in the city and the state. And I think what we delivered was professional, collaborative, communicative, responsive teamwork that I think had a lot to do with us getting to this point in time. You might have seen some of the press conference that the mayor and the governor did, but I'm just going to summarize the deal for you for a minute. As I mentioned, 40,000 jobs over 15 years, 25,000 over 10. I've talked about the average salary, the economic impact. What is almost hard to comprehend is the incredible benefit, economic benefit this provides to the city and the state. We're talking about state incentives and city incentives that combine to be just about $3 billion. And we're talking about $27.5 billion of tax revenue between the city and state from this project. $27.5 billion. And the governor often talks about the state having one balance sheet. So this is an extremely important project for the entire state when you have an impact like that. So given that, it may be no surprise to you that you have been reading about states that have offered $4 billion, states that are bordering our state offering $7 billion, $4.5 billion, Maryland with over $8 billion. We never imagined that this was simply going to go to the highest bidder, and we never approached it that way, which is why we used our standard economic development incentives. This is primarily an Excelsior tax credit deal with some capital grant dollars. But the overwhelming majority of what the state is contributing here is our Excelsior tax credits, which you're all very familiar with, and the capital grant, which you're all familiar with. One way to think about it is, and again, these are all performance-based incentives like Excelsior and Capital Grant. In our MOU and in our investment incentive offer, these are all pay-for-performance incentives. If you don't achieve what you represent, you don't get the tax credits and you don't get the capital grant. So you can think about this as Amazon brings to the state of New York $27.5 billion of revenue, and the state of New York, in essence, gives back to them. The state and city, in essence, gives back to them $3. Okay? I mean, that is just a stunning metric that is incredibly positive for us, because the truth is, if they don't achieve the jobs and the payroll that they've indicated, then they don't get any of these benefits. So they bring enormous, unimaginable benefits, and they get back from us a small portion of them back. So it's a 9-to-1 leverage, 9-to-1. We talk about the tremendous benefits of the film tax program, which has big impact in New York City. We do independent analysis every other year, I believe, by statute. We put in $1, we get back $1.15, I think was the most recent report. Put in $1, we get back $1.15. Here we put in $1, we get back 9. So it's, it's extremely impactful. It's on Long Island City, as you know. Initially, they will occupy a portion of what I still refer to in my mind, because I grew up on Long Island. I used to drive by this building all the time. It was the City Court building. It's now One Court Square. So I think you know what building I'm referring to, those of you who live downstate. One Court Square, there'll be over 500,000 square feet available to them, and I believe they intend to start occupying some of that building in 2019. This is a project that Amazon is investing up to $3.7 billion to build out as many as 8 million square feet on Long Island City, down by the waterfront, an area called Annabelle Basin. So after we are done with the project plan, working with the city, working with the community, they will, begin their project of new construction down by Annabelle Basin, which is an area right now that, if you don't have an image of it in your mind, I think you all have an image of that Pepsi sign. It's kind of an iconic sign in Long Island City if you look across the river. It's just to the north of that area. So it's an amazing project. It will ramp up steadily and gradually over time. So we expect they'll have a few thousand people here in the next few years, and then add a few thousand people each additional year. So there'll be time to construct it, time to ramp it up, time for us, obviously, to both identify and mitigate impacts. But this is just enormously exciting for the city and for the state. And to have participated, and ESD has done an amazing job, and I'm not going to single out people, but I can just tell you that all of the disciplines at ESD played a significant role here in the way we work together as a team. So whether you're talking about business development or real estate or marketing or research or finance, general management, we use all of the good resources at ESD as we do, and we functioned as a team, and we functioned closely with the city. And we even had some good times along the way, as stressful as it sometimes was. So let me stop there. But to me, it's a great reflection on New York City and the New York City workforce. It's a great reflection on the governor and the accomplishments of the last 8 years, which this was really an incredible validation of. And I think it's a great reflection on Empire State Development, including its board and all the members of this organization, who helped make this happen, who helped develop the many relationships and provide the significant amount of time and information and assurances along the way. So that while we were doing this, we did not stop doing business at Empire State Development. So I have some other projects I want to talk about before we move on to the agenda.
Howard, can I interrupt and just say,
Sure.
Not just on my behalf, but I suspect on behalf of the other board members, my congratulations. It makes me proud to be a member of this board.
Thank you.
And Howard, we talked yesterday. I echo those sentiments. It's a great team effort, and I think it's just a great outcome for New York State and New York City. So thank you.
Thank you. Bausch & Lomb, I'm pleased to say, will expand their contact lens manufacturing facilities in Rochester. The expansion expects to create 100 new jobs in Rochester. The Studco Building Systems will expand their North American headquarters in the Finger Lakes in the town of Webster in Monroe County. They're doubling the size of their facility and adding 56,000 square feet and creating up to 18 new jobs over the next 5 years. There was a grand opening of what you might recall the Magic Spell Studios at RIT. This is one of the digital gaming hubs for the state. It is a wonderful facility. This is a fast-growing, high economic impact industry, and it will cement Rochester and the Finger Lakes as an important player in that industry. And in the southern tier, we had a grand opening of the new Wayfair Sales and Service Center, which was 450 new full-time jobs. And I want to say that all of the regional economic development councils presented their 2018 progress reports to the SIAT, which we affectionately refer to as the Cesar Perales SIAT. But that process was led by Secretary of State Rosanna Rosado, and it also included commissioners from Department of Agriculture and Markets, HCR, GOL, the Canal Corporation, and New York Thruway. So we appreciate the tremendous investment of time and all of our colleagues across the state in that very important process. So that concludes my president's report, and I'll ask Glendon to present a summary of the upcoming projects. Glendon?
Thank you, and good morning. The directors will be requested to consider 28 projects totaling $378,489,280 in grants. The project includes 8 regional council awards and 20 discretionary awards. The project will take place in all 10 regions, leverage over $906 million of additional investment, retain 547 jobs, and create 695 jobs in the state. Thank you.
Okay, great. And we'll start the projects off with Jim Fail from Central New York. Jim, if you're on the line, I know you've got 2 projects.
Yes, thanks, Howard. And as always, very tough act to follow. The first project that we're asking the board to approve is approximately a $4.8 million grant for a group called Innovation Group of Seymour Arts, LLC. This is to establish an equity fund to incentivize filmmakers to produce films up in the Central New York area as we try to grow this industry out up in Central New York to maximize on the film tax credit. One of the challenges we have is that we do not have the formalized union yet up here that supports the film industry. So therefore, they need to bring the talent up from typically New York City, which makes the films cost more up here. So this is to try to offset some of those costs, and this will also help establish a short film competition in partnership with Syracuse University and SUIGO, which will be open to individuals that are in the film theater industry here to kind of start growing from grassroots efforts that initiative as well. The second project is a $1.7 million project, which is for the Greater Syracuse Soundstage Development. So this is a facility that filmmakers will use. So these 2 are somewhat related. This will help to do some capital improvements that are needed in the facility, buy some additional equipment that's needed, as well as some furniture, fixtures, those types of things, and provide some soft costs to cover some administrative expenses to operate this facility for the next few years as industry in our area is fledgling, but it is growing a little bit. Last year we had about $5 million in production. This year we've had $10 million in production. And right now, with a pipeline of projects, we're on tap to do a minimum of $10 million next year and shooting for about $20 million. And I would be glad to take any questions.
Okay, any questions for Jim? This is part of the really unwind for us of the Film Hub in Syracuse. So we see this as kind of a final disconnect in some ways from ESD. For the Film Hub, as you know, we've transferred this asset right to Onondaga County, as I recall. And so this is, to us, I think, a significant portion of the unwind. Any questions for Jim Thale?
It's Eric. I do have a question. I don't fully understand the structure. You described it as an equity financing, but the materials also say that it's a grant. So is there monies coming back, or is it really just is it to support the industry in the central region without any equity return for the state?
Yeah, the grant is going to the LLC that was formed, and then the LLC will provide the equity for these production companies, and this is in hopes that this might be a way that it can help make this fund a self-sustaining fund, so it won't be coming back to the state. The equity will not, but the benefit would be that hopefully that this fund would be able to sustain itself through some of the returns on investments that it's made.
Okay.
Hey, Eric, it's Kevin Eunice here in Albany. You know, this grant is going to what's called the CNY Arts. There's an LLC that was created for this purpose. They are a not-for-profit in central New York who are involved in this industry as well as other arts-related projects. They'll take this funding, keep the funding, and hopefully reinvest as there are profits realized or paid back.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Jim Thale on either of these two items? Is there a motion to approve both items?
Moved.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Thank you, Jim. And next up, Vinny Esposito has 3 projects in the Finger Lakes region. Vinny?
Good morning, Howard. Good morning, board members. Yes, the first project I have for you today is a $30 million Upstate Revitalization Initiative grant for the AIM Photonics Initiative. AIM Photonics, if you recall, you've had this initiative before you in the past, is the new federal manufacturing institute led by the Department of Defense that was located in Rochester, where we're building the new primary facility called the TAP facility, which stands for Testing, Assembly, and Packaging. The funding before you today will provide operating and capital dollars for the AIM Photonics Institute for years 3, 4, and 5 of the 5-year commitment that the state made to the Department of Defense and to AIM Photonics when it was established. This technology focus is integrated photonics, which is a component of our overall strength in the optics, photonics, and imaging industry in Rochester, which already boasts more than 100 companies and more than 18,000 jobs, exemplified by even traditional industries like Howard mentioned in his report, with Bausch & Lomb expanding their contact lens manufacturing. So our supply chain and our expertise in the future of photonics in this region is already strong. AIM Photonics is going to help that. And the TAP facility, which you previously funded, is actually in the process of opening now. The offices were occupied in September. The labs are completed. The clean rooms are constructed. And one of the 4 clean rooms has its tools that have already been installed. So progress is continuing on that initiative, and that's the first item for you today. We have, I think, also the CEO of AIM Photonics on the phone if you have questions after my presentations. The second project is a company called Datto. Again, it might be one you're familiar with. Datto is a company in our Startup New York portfolio and has been one of the most successful companies in Startup New York, certainly in the Finger Lakes region. It is a tech company that provides backup services and support products for companies around the world. They have grown in Rochester to the point where they have moved out of their first Startup New York location in downtown Rochester with the Rochester Institute of Technology into a new building. And this approval today is being requested of $2.1 million to help with the build-out of those new offices, which were completed and occupied fully in September. The governor came to open up those offices that now include 235 employees, which far surpasses the 70 they originally committed to, on their way to at least 315 employees in that location. The third project is for a new training facility at Rochester General Hospital called the Wegman Center. It's a licensed practical nursing center. You're being asked to approve a grant of $1.1 million from the Regional Council Capital Fund. This was a priority project. The project totaled $5.5 million, was opened, I believe, in this summer. I think it was maybe April or May. And is helping that, which is our second largest hospital system in this region, provide for the shortage of licensed practical nurses. Be happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions for Vinny on any of these three items, AIM Photonics, Datto, or the training school? Michael Lear, you're on the line. We appreciate your joining us. Do you want to talk at all for a couple of minutes on the status of AIM Photonics or the significance of that industry in Rochester?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
What do you say?
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So
Sure.
the facility is, as Vinny said, now ready to receive the tools. We're in the process of installing the first ones. Again, we indicated there's 4 clean rooms altogether where they're ready to receive equipment. One is currently being populated. We do expect that all of these tools that we've ordered will be in that facility, allowing us to start operating it in by no later than the end of the first very early second quarter next year. We do have first customer interest. There's a list of 14 opportunities that we're tracking at the moment. Some include local industry, which I believe is particularly interesting to us because it shows that there's interest in utilizing the capability as we speak. Some are companies that are from the rest of the U.S., and it's certainly our hope that we can bring some of those companies to actually relocate and really establish a significant presence adjacent to this facility. AIM Photonics itself, as you heard, has something in the order of 2 to 3 years left on the federal award. We're at this point also talking to funding agencies, the Department of Defense, about a phase 2 that I'm fairly positive will become a reality because everybody has an interest to see this capability that we collectively put in place be utilized and be productive for many years to come.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Any questions for Michael or Vinny? Is there a motion to approve all 3 of these Finger Lakes projects?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks, Vinny. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it. Donna Howell will present one item from the Southern Tier. Donna?
Good morning. Yeah, I have one project for approval today. We're requesting the Director's Report approve a $930,000 grant to the Tioga County IDA on behalf of Weitzman Shredding for capital expenses associated with machinery and equipment, as well as construction of a 30,000 square foot heavy media plant in Owego. They identified this need to construct a new facility in order to expand its operations and further refine scrap metal for international sale, while also reducing the amount of unusable materials going into the landfills. And in case you're not familiar with Weitzman, they're the largest scrap metal recyclers in the Northeast. This new facility will support growth of Weitzman's export capability and allow the company to sell the scrap metal into newer markets throughout the world. The company secured $4 million in funding, but there was a funding gap, and so they applied to run 5 of the REDC CFA awards and to bridge the gap, and then were awarded $930,000 through that round 5, which was also round 1 of the Upstate Revitalization Initiative for our region. And this will retain 319 jobs in New York State and is aligned with our council's plan to encourage manufacturing in the region. And this was completed in April of 2018.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Donna. Any questions from directors for Donna on this item? Is there a motion to approve?
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Thank you, Donna. I'm here in the Capital Region with Kevin Hansen, who has an item. Kevin, take it away.
Great. Good morning, Howard, and good morning to the directors. The next item is a request to approve a significant new research partnership between New York State and a company named Applied Materials at the SUNY Polytechnic Institute campus in Albany. So for a little context, as many of you likely know, over the past couple of decades, SUNY Poly's research facilities have really been at the center of some significant technology advancements and semiconductor industry breakthroughs, including developing the machinery and equipment necessary to produce next-generation wafers and some of the smallest and most advanced computer chips in the world. Importantly, a major impact of the state's investment into SUNY Poly and its resulting research accomplishments is that the SUNY Poly campus has evolved into a highly attractive industry asset for a wide range of high-tech firms, acting as a magnet for firms that benefit from their proximity to the campus and its public-private consortia in industry-leading research and development. So in this way, SUNY Poly's success has helped to drive the Capital Region's continued transformation to a global hub for nanotechnology, semiconductor R&D, and advanced manufacturing. Indirectly, SUNY Poly has generated billions of dollars in economic activity and has created and retained thousands of jobs in an area that is increasingly being known as Tech Valley. Applied Materials, the company with which New York State is now proposing to partner, is a leading Silicon Valley-based technology company headquartered in Santa Clara, California, and traded on the NASDAQ stock exchange. In a nutshell, Applied Materials makes advanced manufacturing equipment and a range of materials engineering solutions that are used by its customers to produce virtually every new computer chip and advanced display in the world. Altogether, there are really 3 elements of this proposed partnership, and I'm going to walk through each one in a little bit more detail. So first and foremost, New York State and Applied Materials will establish a Material Engineering Technology Accelerator, or the Meta Center, on the SUNY Poly campus in Albany. To establish the Meta Center, over 5 years, ESD will provide $250 million in capital grants to the Research Foundation for SUNY, which will purchase and install advanced tools and clean room R&D facilities. Scheduled to open in 2019, the Meta Center will be a world-class hub for materials engineering research and development, prototyping, and pilot projects for customers in fields like artificial intelligence, augmented and virtual reality, semiconductors, advanced optics, and many others, industries that pose great strategic importance and potential for New York State. Of note, for access to the Meta Center's facilities and equipment, Applied Materials will pay more than $100 million in leases over 7 years as part of a $600 million overall investment by Applied into the campus. The second component of the project, in addition to the Meta Center, is a strategic research alliance between SUNY and Applied Materials, whereby researchers from across the SUNY system will be invited to submit proposals for joint research and development activities with Applied. Under the Research Alliance, Applied will provide cash and in-kind support that will be equally matched by SUNY for up to $50 million in total new research project funding. Finally, in addition to the Meta Center and the SUNY Research Alliance, the third component of the project is a venture capital co-investment agreement between ESD and Applied Ventures, which is a subsidiary of Applied and the venture capital arm of the company. Under the partnership, Applied Ventures and its partners will co-invest $20 million of venture capital into early-stage businesses across upstate New York, with ESD providing an additional $10 million for a total of $30 million to foster new technology and create more high-tech jobs. Of note, this partnership between New York State and Applied will be the inaugural new project for the recently announced New York Center for Research, Economic Advancement, Technology, Engineering, and Science, or NY Creates. And as a reminder, NY Creates represents a new partnership between ESD and SUNY to lead industry-oriented research and development and economic development projects designed to grow the state's high-tech economy. With that said, I'm now happy to take any questions that the directors may have, and I'm also pleased to be joined, I believe, by phone by Dr. Douglas A. Gross, the future president of NY Creates, who also happens to be, among his other accomplishments, the former CEO of Global Foundries and an individual who has played an essential role in securing this partnership. Thanks.
So let me just add just a couple of words here. I want to, again, we've been working on this for a year. It has been a Herculean effort. It has, again, been a great team effort. I think you know that we inherited a variety of projects from SUNY Poly a couple years ago. This is really a sign that we're moving forward strategically. And you're talking about the leading materials science company in the world, opening up a significant presence here in Albany. This enhances and cements our core investments in the semiconductor industry. It enhances the partnership with SUNY Research Foundation. It helps to stabilize the enterprise, and it brings venture capital to the entire upstate ecosystem associated with 21st century technology types of jobs. It also, importantly, from my standpoint, opens up the door to the entire West Coast tech sector. This is a California-based company, Santa Clara, I believe, and they have a lot of very interesting strategic partnerships throughout the tech sector in California. So having Amazon come east and having Applied Materials come east, both to New York, I think this was a significant week in New York State tech history, and we're extremely excited about this partnership and what it can do going forward. It's a tremendous validation, frankly, of SUNY and the unique research role that it plays. As you know, we have relationships with Tokyo Electron, with IBM, now with Applied Materials. We've been involved in this industry for some time. Most of this industry, and it's important to note, has moved or has made significant investments overseas. And there is no more strategic industry for American competitiveness and relevance, economic relevance, in the world, in my opinion, than this industry. So New York remains and is strengthened as one of the very few global centers of the semiconductor industry in America, because unfortunately many of these investments have left the country and have gone overseas, particularly to Asia and to some extent Europe. So we play an amazing role here in the state of New York as a global center for the semiconductor industry, and that is validated by Applied Materials, one of the world's leading material science companies, joining us here at SUNY Poly.
Howard, it's Eric. I just wanted to add, I mean, first of all, I think that's very exciting and job well done. And I think there's a parallel between this and Amazon in the sense that, we're living in a knowledge-based economy. And I think that one of the tenets of economic development is to make sure that we're helping to spur these types of public-private partnerships with top flight industries, with educational centers, so we can continue to do the right research and continue to have, the right ongoing knowledge. I mean, one of the things that Amazon kept on saying that was that they wanted to be in New York because of a very educated workforce. And I think this helps to spur that upstate. So I think it's very exciting. I think it's exactly the types of partnerships that this corporation should be doing. And hats off. Great job.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that very much. And it's, again, kudos to the whole team, Hanson, Eunice, and company, who have really dedicated an incredible amount of time the last couple of years to helping to support SUNY Poly as we've gotten more involved, and significantly now to help move us forward strategically. So it's good news, and I'll ask if there are any other questions for Kevin with respect to this project. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
I second it.
Thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I should ask if there's any comments from the public. I apologize, I had not. Okay, thank you. We have two projects from the New York City region presented by Joe Taswell and Destiny Burns. Joe?
Thank you, Howard, and good morning. The directors are requested to approve a grant of $600,000 for Galvanize to be used for the construction and renovation of the company's new 55,000 square foot facility located at 315 Hudson Street in Lower Manhattan. This $8.4 million project was designated as a regional council priority in 2016, as it is in alignment with the council's focus on workforce development, addressing the skills gap issue, and fostering innovation. Galvanize, founded in 2012 in Denver, Colorado, seeks to provide tech training by offering various courses in web and software development and data science for students at the age of 18 or older with at least a high school diploma or GED. Galvanize also offers support and co-working space to member companies and hosts various networking events. They had 210 last year to bring entrepreneurs, students, investors, and mentors together. In addition to the New York City campus, the company operates 8 other campuses in Denver, Boulder, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Phoenix, Seattle, and Austin, Texas. Galvanize is especially interested in helping to provide opportunities in tech fields for women, minorities, veterans, and low-income communities. The project has already been completed. It was completed in January, and the company has already created 23 of its 27-person job commitments. It has also assisted with 80 startup companies and indirectly created 82 new jobs. The project will also allow Galvanize to train 500 individuals annually in web and software development and the data science fields. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm sorry, is Destiny presenting?
Yeah.
She is indeed.
Good morning. The directors are requested to authorize a 2-year working capital grant of $375,000 to the Research Foundation, CUNY, to launch the Bronx Community College Film Production Training Program. The program is a new workforce development initiative created by Bronx Community College, or BCC's Division of Workforce Development and Continuing Education, in cooperation with IATSE Local 52, Motion Picture Studio Mechanics Union, and the college's Department of Communication, Arts, and Sciences. IATSE Local 52 is a regional chapter of the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees Union, responsible for deploying workers for the behind-the-scenes or below-the-line jobs in television and film productions in the region that often require unionized employees. The program will train students for entry-level jobs and prepare them for below-the-line careers in film and television production and potentially union membership for high-demand crafts. Guidance from Local 52 in close cooperation with the Workforce Development Division ensures that the training curricula is responsive to industry needs, while the participation of BCC's Media and Digital Film Production Program will leverage college resources, including instructors, facilities, and equipment. Program participants will get the opportunity to get paid hands-on work experience through the union that will count towards union membership qualifications. The training will be offered in 3 crafts: property, grip, and electric. BCC's Office of Career Services will coordinate placement through the local with film and television production companies work across New York City. An additional goal of the program is to assist Local 52 and the industry at large in the diversification of its workforce. The program will target minorities and women participants across the city to achieve this objective.
Okay, thanks, Joe and Destiny. Let me ask if there's any questions or comments from directors on either of these 2 items.
Yes, I have a quick comment relating primarily, I guess, more directly to Joe Taswell's project. You know, we are celebrating Amazon's coming to New York City, and I've heard some criticism about the fact that it's going to have negative impacts on poor communities. This is the type of project we ought to make a big deal about. It's not as important, you know. It's not the big public relations hit that you'd get on some of the others, but this is important. As we go hand in hand, moving, as Eric put it, toward the knowledge economy, we want to make sure that nobody's left behind, particularly in New York City with all the big jobs coming in. And so I think the more I hear about projects like Galvanize, the more interesting and exciting it is. So I congratulate you.
Thank you, Cesar. Any other comments from directors or questions from directors to Joe or Destiny? Are there any comments from the public with regard to either of these items? Is there a motion to approve both items?
Move.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, thanks, Joe and Destiny. Megan Taylor has 2 items from the Mid-Hudson. Megan?
Yes, good morning, Howard, and good morning, Board of Directors. So I am presenting today a $275,000 EDF grant from 2017 for Star Brands North America corporate headquarters project in the city of White Plains in Westchester County. In June of 2016, the Metz Candy Company changed its name to Star Brands North America, Inc., and shortly thereafter, the company embarked on a project to move its corporate headquarters to a strategic location to achieve the company's mission, vision, and create a new culture. White Plains was selected after a rigorous review of locations across the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut for its amenities and access to public transportation with the goal of attracting top talent in the surrounding areas, including New York City and Stanford. Star Brands is engaged in the business of manufacturing, distributing, and selling chocolate-covered pretzels and nuts to supermarkets and other mass retail outlets throughout the United States, including Flips, a brand of chocolate-covered pretzels, and Turtles, the best-selling caramel nut clusters. With these 2 successful and well-known brands, the company is a leader in chocolate-covered salted snacks market. Star Brands invested approximately just over $1 million to renovate 12,000 square feet of space at 10 Bank Street in White Plains to move their corporate headquarters for their North America operations from Stamford, Connecticut. This new consolidated headquarters would eliminate the redundancies of having multiple headquarters for different entities. This project relocated 14 existing employees from Connecticut to the White Plains location and will create an additional 39 new hires. Star Brands has completed their renovations and moved into their new headquarters in October of 2017. They have created 50 jobs to date at the project location, and this project closely aligns with the regional council's work and play strategy. The next project is an affirmation for White Plains Aviation. So on July 19th of 2018, the Empire State, the ESD Board of Directors made findings and determinations authorizing a grant of up to $1 million to White Plains Aviation Partners for a portion of the project cost of $52.5 million in infrastructure upgrades to the Westchester County Airport, including an expanded terminal, new hangar, and infrastructure upgrades such as parking space. A public hearing was held in the town of Harrison, in the Harrison Town Hall on August 13th of 2018 to consider the general project plan. ESD arranged the public hearing in accordance with all statutory requirements and applicable ESD policy. 9 individuals provided verbal testimony at the public hearing, and 2 additional individuals submitted written testimony. All 11 individuals expressed concerns, which required that this project be brought back to the directors for final action. A full transcript of that hearing is attached to your board materials. The individuals primarily expressed concerns about noise, air, and water pollution and increases in air traffic that they believed would result from the project. The company's aircraft operations, including aircraft emissions, are subject to the rules and regulations of the FAA, or Federal Aviation Administration. And in addition, the company, under its lease with the county, is required to comply with the Voluntary Restraint Form Flying Program, the Airport Noise Abatement Program, and the ISO 14001 Airport Environmental Management System, which all help to reduce noise and air quality impacts. Newer aircraft, which have been targeted by the White Plains Aviation and currently make up 40% of the planes their customer uses, their customers utilize state-of-the-art emission systems and improved operating practices, which reduce idling times, maintenance run times, and aircraft taxi times, resulting in reduced noise and air emissions. For the foregoing reasons, the project is not expected to cause an increase in noise or air pollution. The project will utilize the airport's existing stormwater drainage system to capture and direct stormwater to an existing detention basin. The project is expected to result in a reduction in impervious surfaces and to reduce stormwater volume from the site. With the new construction, a significant portion of the tarmac has been replaced with roof area, which would direct runoff to infiltration systems to improve groundwater recharge and reduce runoff volume entering the basins. Therefore, the project is not expected to result in water quality impacts or impacts to the Cove Reservoir. The project will not cause an increase in airport capacity or air or ground traffic. The number of flights at the airport is governed by a 2005 county law that limits flights to 4 flights per hour with a maximum, per half hour with a maximum of 240 passengers per half hour. The number of gates and runways at the airport also remains the same with this project, with a total of 6 gates and 2 runways. The project will also not result in a substantial increase in traffic above present levels, nor generate a substantial new demand for transportation facilities or services. After review and consideration of comments received at the Harrison public hearing, ESD staff believes that the project is vital to stabilize the company's presence in New York State, while also supporting infrastructure growth and development. Furthermore, ESD staff believes that the concerns raised at the hearing have been adequately addressed by the general project plan, and therefore we request the directors to affirm such plan. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Megan on this item? Any comments from the public on this item? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Megan. Next up, Amanda Mays from Western New York will present the Ellicott Brewing Capital Project. Amanda.
Good morning. The directors are requested to approve a $600,000 capital grant from the Regional Council Capital Fund, CFA Round 6, to S&W Company LLC, doing business as Ellicottville Brewing Company, for a portion of machinery and equipment costs associated with the approximately $6 million project to expand production at the company's Little Valley warehouse. EBC currently has 3 locations in Ellicottville, Bemis Point, and Fredonia. They will purchase and renovate its 4th facility, 75,000 square foot warehouse, where it will locate production facilities for brewing and bottling operations, as well as retail opportunities for tasting and restaurant facilities. The expansion will increase production from 11,000 to 110,000 barrels per year, retain 49 jobs at its existing locations, 5 new jobs in Little Valley, most of which will be in manufacturing. This project will allow the company to continue its growth model as one of the premier craft beer makers in the country and support its recently begun exporting of its product to South Korea and other global markets. The project is in one of Western New York's industry sectors of advanced manufacturing, creating new opportunities for employment and training, as well as for increased tourism in Cattaraugus County and New York State's growing craft brewing industry.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. Are there any questions from directors for Amanda on this project? Any comments from the public on this? Is there a motion to approve?
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you, Amanda. Next up, Simone will present the Restore New York Communities. Simone.
Thank you. Good morning. Today we will be asking the directors to approve 3 New York grants, 3 Restore New York grants. The first is a $5 million Round 5 award to the City of Rochester to renovate 8 properties in the downtown center city. The city's master plan identified the adaptive reuse of blighted and vacant properties and the rehabilitation of historic structures in downtown Rochester as crucial to its revitalization efforts. The renovations will cover a total of 561,208 square feet, resulting in the creation of 145 residential units, with 103 of those being listed as affordable housing residencies. 65,000 square feet of commercial retail space will also be made available. The project will be complete in June 2020 at a cost of approximately $51 million. The second item for the director's consideration is a $2.5 million Round 4 grant to the City of Yonkers for its 6-phase demolition and redevelopment project to demolish and reconstruct 23 severely distressed low-income public housing properties in the Ashburton corridor. 17 buildings will be demolished and environmentally remediated, and 6 new buildings will be constructed to replace obsolete public housing and create affordable housing and community facilities. This project will be complete in April 2020 at a cost of approximately $99 million. The final Restore New York Award is a Round 4 $500,000 grant to the Village of Newark Valley in the Southern Tier. This award will help to fund the demolition and asbestos abatement of the Gold Meadow Valley Ladder Factory, a 105,000 square foot abandoned facility, once one of the largest employers in Cuyahoga County, which closed in 1993. The factory roof has collapsed, and the building is an eyesore in the heart of the village. Restore funds will be used to raise the building, ultimately opening up the site for potential commercial development. This project was completed in June 2018 at a cost of $551,306. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Simone. Are there any questions from the directors on either of these 3 Restore New York items? Are there any comments from the public on any of these items? Is there a motion to approve these items?
I move the motion.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Thank you, Simone. Jeff Nordhaus has a new New York broadband program, Phase 3, and some project affirmations. Jeff?
Good morning, Howard, and thank you very much. Good morning, directors. The Broadband Program Office is seeking directors' approval to fund 10 projects with Hughes Network Systems, which represents a commitment of $8.6 million in state funding for round 3 of the broadband program. These projects will leverage an additional $5 million in private sector match funding, resulting in $13.7 million total broadband investment. As you may recall, the board has previously approved round 3 award to Hughes in July for unserved areas which are receiving federal support through the CAF program. These projects are not eligible for CAF, so these are New York State only projects. In total, 47 projects with 17 companies were selected for round 3 awards, representing a total of $384 million. and we are following this project. There will be only one Phase 3 project yet to be approved. The 10 projects before the board today will address completely unserved areas within 9 REDC regions: Western New York, Finger Lakes, Southern Tier, Central New York, Mohawk Valley, Capital Region, Mid-Hudson, Long Island, and the North Country, consistent with the program's legislative priority for unserved areas. These projects will offer broadband to 54,000 total locations, including 51,000 housing units and more than 3,000 other locations, including businesses, libraries, and other institutions. For this service, Hughes will be deploying its new state-of-the-art Generation 5 satellite service. It will provide download speeds of 25 megabits per second as required by the program. By contrast, prior satellite services were only capable of providing less than 15 megabits per second. As required by the program, Hughes grant-supported plans will deliver speeds of 25 down and 3 megabits upload speed at a monthly rate not to exceed $60, with an installation fee which has greatly been reduced to not exceed $49. The areas to be served by Hughes are by far the most rural and remote areas of the state, areas where primarily no bids for fiber or wired broadband were received. And that's why this Hughes satellite service was a great solution for those areas that otherwise would have been left behind in terms of having no option for broadband at this point in time. As a result of the awards to Hughes, we can ensure that these areas will have broadband access at speeds of at least 25 in line with the program goals. So before I move to the affirmations, I'll pause there if there are any questions, Howard, if that's all right.
Sure.
I have absolutely no understanding of technology. Who puts up these satellites? Who puts up, and where do they go? Is that like I'm trying to visualize this absolutely rural area with.
Right. So the satellite is, think about DirecTV. If you have if you've ever seen DirecTV for television,
yes,
NFL Sunday Ticket or anything like that, the satellite is actually up in the sky, so 25,000 miles in the sky. It's in a geosynchronous orbit going around the Earth. That's their satellite, which has been
Hughes
That's the Hughes satellite, which is a couple $100 million. They put that in the sky.
Okay.
Then at the residence. Usually in the past, it's been used primarily for video, for television. Think about DirecTV, which
right,
you just mentioned,
right.
Dish Network. This is a newer technology which enables that satellite to provide internet service. So two-way, got it going up and down rather than just television going down. It's a new kind of very interesting technology.
Is it also a dish that I would see like on somebody's roof?
So so that's the second part of it. So the second part, so that's part of the sky. The other part of it is at the residence. So if the resident signs up for service, you would go out and put a dish, very similar to a DirecTV or a Dish satellite, that would be, a foot or two in diameter, and that would go in a position on the house or in the backyard that would face the satellite and enable that, and that's the $40 million.
That seems much easier than wire.
It is much easier, and it's much cheaper.
So why doesn't everybody use this?
Well, the speeds, there are a couple of reasons. So first of all, let me just address the first point. It's much. In fact, the cost per home of this solution is $200, which is why we're able to hit those 54,000 locations. However, the general public prefers fiber-based broadband because the speeds are much greater.
Yeah,
and,
I got it.
There are a couple of technical reasons, but fiber can basically do 100, which is our program's first tier, 100 megabits per second, and 25 if we don't get to 100. But fiber can go more than that. It can go a gigabit or multiple gigabits. And the other thing with satellite is there's a slight, about 3/4 of a second latency. So if you hit something on your computer, it has to go up 22,000 miles and back down. So the reason is that technical attributes of fiber are, in general, preferable to the satellite.
Got it.
And now you're a technical expert. Okay. Sorry, I saw a couple questions. That's why I paused. But shall I continue? Okay. We would like to now move to affirmations. This is similar to the process outlined by Megan that we have previously, on July 19th, there were 3 projects that were approved. We then took those in line with statute to public hearing, and any negative or non-positive testimony that we received, we're now reporting back to the board for affirmation, and we've attached the full transcript of that meeting to the notes that are contained in your materials. The Broadband Program Office is seeking the Director's affirmation for 3 projects that were approved, as I mentioned, in July, in light of comments received at public hearings. Some of these are more project specific, more program specific, rather than anything to do with these specific projects. But just for the Director's benefit, we are summarizing any comments, whether they're project or program related. The first that I would like to go through is actually the Verizon projects. The directors authorize a $49 million round 3 grant to Verizon to finance a portion of the $97 million broadband project for unserved areas in the North Country, Mohawk Valley, Capital, Central, and Southern Tier. This is a fiber project, so Verizon Fios project. There were 5 total public hearings held in connection with this Verizon project. That's because we're actually obligated to hold them in every area where the broadband is going. So for many of these projects, we hold multiple public hearings. Negative testimony was given only at one of these hearings in the town of Venice in Cayuga County. There were 8 speakers in the hearing, and their comments can be summarized in the following 4 categories. First, attendees inquired about whether Verizon would be deploying buried fiber and expressed concern about potential disruptive impact of damage that might come from such work. We have spoken to Verizon, and they have confirmed that most of their deployment will be accomplished via an aerial build-out along the current paths of its existing copper-based telecom network. Buried installation will be limited, and it will be carried out in compliance with all relevant state and local laws in consideration of the community factors. Second, attendees sought confirmation that Verizon will communicate its build-out plan to municipalities and provide sufficient notice of construction. Verizon has already conducted outreach to municipalities in connection with this project and will continue to communicate with them. Third, attendees inquired about Verizon's anticipated consumer pricing structure for the grant-funded service. Verizon will provide broadband in accordance with the requirements of the New York Broadband Program, which mandates that partner companies offer at least one tier providing download speeds of 25 megabits per second or more for a monthly rate not greater than $60 and an installation fee not greater than $49, which is spelled out in the program's guidelines. And they will be doing that. Lastly, attendees cited general concerns about potential gaps in broadband coverage and a desire for either more Verizon, in other words, an expansion of this award to additional areas, or a future award to the extent there are unserved areas after the program, particularly in light of uncertainty surrounding the situation with Charter Communications. After full implementation of the commitments announced as part of the New York Broadband Program, 99.9% of the state households will have access to broadband. These commitments include Charter's deployment of new and upgraded service pursuant to the merger conditions imposed by the PSC. The PSC recently revoked its merger approval based on Charter's failure to fully comply with these conditions and has ordered Charter to file a new plan to ensure an orderly transition to a successor provider, which would be subject to PSC approval. The BPO is closely following these proceedings. And we have fully deployed the program funds and ensured that all remaining households do have access to broadband pursuant to our program guidelines. For this reason, we are requesting the directors affirm the Verizon project. In addition, at the July meeting, the ESD directors authorized an $18 million round 3 grant and a $308 million round 2 grant to Slick Networks for 2 projects to expand unserved broadband in the North Country and Capital Region. There were 4 public hearings for these 2 projects. Negative testimony was given at 3 of the 4 hearings. These occurred in Elizabethtown in Essex County, where 14 speakers testified. This was in part due to the fact that I think they thought it was more of a public discussion hearing and maybe not as clear in terms of what the purpose of the meeting was. They thought it was a general forum on broadband, so the turnout was larger. But nonetheless, we've summarized all those comments for you here today. The comments fall into 2 general categories. First, the attendees have asked for additional information from the broadband office regarding affected municipalities in terms of broadband deployment and basically more communication in terms of build-out timing and the program at large. The BPO and its grantees regularly do communicate with municipal officers and members of the public about the status of grant-funded deployments and construction in their areas. In the North Country, we have participated in 2 town hall-style forums in recent months. Local officials also contact the BPO, and we have a log of multiple communications with them providing such information, and we have a large volume of information on the BPO website. Lastly, the second comment was that attendees expressed concern about potential gaps in broadband coverage. There was a question received about why the program was structured based on census blocks and that a town, could have a census block left out. As we noted previously, full implementation of the broadband program will ensure virtually all households have access to broadband. And the census block methodology allowed for an ideal level of flexibility so that providers could provide service to the areas they could serve at the lowest cost in order to make sure that the state dollars went as far as possible. That is I think, thorough summary of the comments received for the directors. If there are any questions, otherwise we are requesting affirmation of these 3 previously approved projects.
Okay, so let's see if there's any questions or comments with respect to these awards or affirmations from the directors. Are there any comments from the public on these awards or affirmations? Is there a motion to approve awards and affirmation?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. Thanks, Jeff. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Simone, we're back to you, and you have some non-discretionary consent calendar item or items. Take it away.
Thank you. The directors are being asked to approve one non-discretionary item, a grant of $19 million from the Transformative Investment Program to Hofstra University for construction of a new state-of-the-art 65,000 square foot building to house the School of Engineering and Applied Science. This grant is part of a $25 million appropriation included in the 2015-2016 budget and divided into 2 phases. $6 million of the appropriation was approved on September 19, 2017 by the ESD Board of Directors to fund the first phase of the project, which included planning, design, architectural, and engineering costs. Today, directors are being asked to approve the remaining $19 million for phase 2, which will fund construction, purchase and acquisition of lab and other equipment. Purchase and acquisition of lab and other equipment. The project is expected to be complete in December 2023 at a cost of $50 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. Are there any questions or comments from the directors on this item?
Can I just get some clarification, please, when it says non-discretionary? What does that mean? I mean, we just...
Hey, Eric. So typically, what that means is the funding is lined out for a specific purpose in the state budget.
Got it. Okay.
So we're the administrator of the grant, as opposed to some of them where we'll have a discretionary pot of funding where we'll make an award, and that's a different process.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Simone? Any comments from the public on this? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Paul Connett will present the first admin item, which relates to the procurement of power for facilities owned by ESD subsidiaries. Paul?
Thank you, Howard, and good morning, everyone. The directors are requested to authorize the corporation to add 2 subsidiary properties to ESD's NIPA account and to enter into reimbursement agreements with the respective subsidiaries. In December 2017, the directors authorized the corporation to enter into a long-term agreement with the New York Power Authority, or NYPA, for the supply of power to ESD-owned property with the option to add subsidiary property at a later date. Today, staff recommends adding 2 properties. the Apollo Theater, and the Victoria Cultural Unit. Both properties are and will continue to be cultural and performing arts centers in Harlem. However, prior to adding the properties to ESD's NIPA account, the corporation would enter into agreements with the subsidiaries to be reimbursed for any costs associated with providing power to the theaters. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks. Any questions or comments from directors for Paul on this? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Paul. Eunice Jackson will present a contract item relating to the procurement of real estate legal services. Eunice?
Thank you, Howard, and good morning, directors. The directors are asked to approve a contract for legal services in the amount of $400,000 with Showman, Updike, Kaufman, and Gerber, LLP, a New York State certified women-owned business enterprise that is also on ESD's pre-qualified list of law firms. The contract would have a term of 2 years and could be extended for an additional year at the discretion of the General Counsel of ESD. The services would be provided in connection with negotiating and finalizing the terms of the project agreements required in connection with the 121 West 125th Street Urban League Empowerment Center Land Use Improvement and Civic Project. The directors affirmed a general project plan for this project in November of 2013 and conditionally designated the National Urban League as the developer of the project, along with its development partners. The Urban League, after reviewing the project plans with its financial and construction advisors, as well as with the New York State Division of Homes and Community Renewal, has requested that ESD consider certain modifications to the project. The firm will assist ESD in reviewing the proposed modifications and finalizing the project documents. The firm previously provided services in connection with the project and performed those services well. The firm is currently performing work pursuant to a notice to proceed that was executed in July of this year in an amount not to exceed $49,500. The $400,000 amount the directors are asked to approve would include the $49,500 amount. The fees will be paid through an imprest account that is funded by the Urban League and its development partners. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Eunice. Are there any questions or comments for Eunice on this item? Is there any comment from the public on this? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Before we take a motion to adjourn, I just want to say one thing that I meant to say earlier, and this may be the most important thing. I wanted to, on the record, recognize Amazon for selecting New York City and New York State. I wanted to recognize Holly Sullivan, who led a very robust, very thorough search committee for over 15 months. They conducted themselves with great professionalism, and they're obviously a very thorough and very wise group of people. So we want to thank them. And there being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, thank you all for participating in New York, in Albany, and in Washington, D.C. Thanks.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.